There is a specific kind of silence that falls over you in a crowded room. You can hear the hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, the rhythm of 100 intersecting lives, yet none of it seems to touch you. You stand in the center of the noise, completely severed from it. It is a profound, aching separation, a sudden awareness of the space between your skin and everyone else in the world. When this isolation strikes, we almost always interpret it as a symptom of our own brokenness. We look at the seamless interactions of the people around us and assume they possess a secret language we never learned to speak. The modern mind is quick to diagnose this feeling. We label it a personal defect, a failure to adapt, a flaw in our psychological makeup that must be optimized, medicated, or somehow eradicated. But what if this quiet ache is not a malfunction? What if the heavy, hollow sensation in your chest is doing exactly what it was designed to do? Before you try to fix the distance you feel from the rest of humanity, you must first stop treating your own nature as a problem to be solved. There is a different way to look at this empty space. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man who held more power than anyone else on the planet sat alone in a military tent, surrounded by the violent frontiers of an empire. Marcus Aurelius was the ruler of Rome, yet his private writings reveal a man intimately acquainted with the heavy burden of isolation. He was surrounded by advisors, generals, and sycophants, but he was fundamentally alone at the summit of the world. In the quiet hours before dawn, he did not write to an audience. He wrote exclusively to himself, desperately trying to anchor his mind against the crushing weight of his responsibilities. He was looking for a way to endure the betrayal of friends, the incompetence of officials, and the sheer exhaustion of managing a fractured society. His journals are a raw record of a man trying to remember how to be human. Today we live in an era that worships the individual. We are told to build our personal brands, to curate our distinct identities, to carve out our unique paths through the wilderness of the modern economy. We have constructed a society that physically and psychologically walls us off from one another. We sit in private cars, return to private apartments, and stare at private screens, wondering why we feel so entirely adrift. The ancient Stoics offered a radical counter-narrative to this deep-seated individualism. They championed a concept known as Stoic cosmopolitanism, the belief that we are not isolated fragments but vital components of a single living organism. To Marcus Aurelius, the boundaries we draw between ourselves and others were entirely artificial. He understood that the human condition is fundamentally a shared enterprise, a massive, interconnected web of mutual dependence. He reminded himself constantly that humans were made for one another. He used the metaphor of the body, noting that we are designed to work together like feet, like hands, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To obstruct each other, to turn away in bitter isolation, is to act against nature itself. The friction we feel with others is just the grinding of gears in a machine that has forgotten its purpose. Let that sink into the quietest corners of your mind. You are not a solitary wanderer who has lost the map. You are a cell in a larger body, temporarily unaware of the surrounding tissue. The loneliness you feel is simply the phantom pain of a severed connection, a reminder that you were never meant to exist in a vacuum. Yet knowing this does not magically erase the friction of daily life. The reality of other people is often exhausting. We encounter arrogance, deceit, selfishness, and cruelty, and our immediate instinct is to retreat. We pull up the drawbridge, lock the gates, and decide that the outside world is simply too toxic to engage with. We choose the safety of our private islands over the messy, unpredictable mainland of human relationships. Marcus anticipated this exact instinct. He knew that the people he would face each day would be meddling, ungrateful, and arrogant. But he framed this not as a reason to withdraw, but as a reason to lean in with a deeper sense of empathy. He recognized that those who cause harm do so out of a tragic ignorance of what is truly good and evil. They are stumbling in the dark. We lose sight of this empathy in the glare of our modern metrics. When our interactions are reduced to transactional exchanges, when we view other people merely as obstacles to our goals or stepping stones for our ambition, we sever the very threads that sustain us. Our hyper-individualized culture tells us that we are in constant competition, turning every stranger into a potential rival and every vulnerability into a weakness. But when you strip away the performative gloss of modern life, a different truth emerges. Loneliness is not a personal defect. It is a universal thread woven into the fabric of the human experience. The ache for connection you feel in the middle of the night is the exact same ache felt by the person sitting next to you on the subway. It is the defining signature of our shared biology. By reframing this isolation, we stop fighting a war against ourselves. We realize that the feeling of being cut off is paradoxically the very thing that binds us to every other living person. Your private grief, your quiet anxieties, your persistent sense of not quite belonging, these are not the things that separate you from humanity. They are the undeniable proof of your membership within it. Close your eyes to the noise for a moment. Feel the steady rhythm of your own breath, the rise and fall of your chest. Millions of others are breathing the exact same way, harboring the exact same unspoken fears. In this very second across the globe, someone else is staring at the ceiling, wondering if they are the only one who feels this way. This is the essence of what Marcus Aurelius was trying to teach himself in those dark, lonely hours on the frontier. He was practicing the art of remembrance. He was not trying to learn something new, he was trying to remember something ancient. He was recalling his fundamental interconnectedness with the cosmos, reminding himself that his individual suffering was just a tiny ripple in a vast, eternal ocean of human experience. The tragedy of our current age is how fiercely we guard our struggles. We treat our internal dissonance like a shameful secret, burying it beneath curated images of success and stability. We smile through the exhaustion, terrified that if anyone saw the depth of our uncertainty, we would be exiled from the tribe. This frantic concealment requires an immense amount of energy, leaving us hollowed out and profoundly tired. The architecture of our modern world only reinforces this illusion of separation. We walk down concrete canyons lined with glass towers, surrounded by thousands of people, yet we rarely make eye contact. We have engineered a society of parallel lives, where we move alongside one another without ever actually intersecting. We have traded the messy, necessary friction of community for the sterile convenience of absolute autonomy. And in this pursuit of absolute autonomy, we have starved ourselves of the very thing we need to survive. We buy into the myth of the self-made individual, the solitary genius who needs no one. But this is a dangerous fiction. A severed branch cannot sustain itself for long. Without the trunk, without the roots, without the shared soil, it simply withers. The Stoic perspective demands that we look past these artificial divisions. It asks us to recognize the divine spark that exists within every human being, no matter how flawed or frustrating they might be. When we begin to view humanity as a single breathing entity, our perspective on our own pain shifts dramatically. We stop asking why we are hurting, and we start asking how we can contribute to the healing of the whole. There is an immense freedom in this surrender. When you finally lay down the burden of trying to be entirely self-sufficient, a profound stillness rushes in to take its place. You no longer have to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders. You are simply a fragment of the earth, returning to the fold. Marcus Aurelius understood that to live well is to live in accordance with nature, and human nature is inherently social. We are meant to share the load. The emperor did not find peace by escaping his duties or isolating himself from the masses. He found peace by radically accepting his place within the vast, intricate machinery of the human family. He found his center by dissolving his ego into the collective. This is the quiet revolution of presence. It is the choice to look at the stranger across from you and recognize your own reflection in their tired eyes. It is the decision to stop viewing loneliness as a problem to be solved, and instead embrace it as a shared human experience that connects us to everyone else. Your isolation is not a reality, it is merely a perspective issue, a temporary forgetting of your true nature. So the next time the silence feels too heavy and the space between you and the rest of the world seems impossible to cross, remember the Roman emperor in his tent. Remember that the ache you feel is the oldest song in the world. You are not broken, you are not adrift, you are exactly where you are supposed to be, woven deeply into the beautiful, tragic, and entirely shared fabric of humanity.